Welcome to True House Stories. I am Lenny Fontana coming out of New York City. The Big Apple, and now it's the hottest apple in town. We're sweltering again, and we're back with the summer heat and starting to cook. And those that know how hot it gets in New York, we're just going to get started. But thankfully, summer is upon us. We have scoured the earth to go to Chicago. But before we get to Chicago, let's just reenact where we come from, okay? So we got a Brooklyn, New York native who's one of the hottest singers in town. She was also one of the most prettiest around town as well, and won New York State and in that year, and she'll tell us all about it. You know her records. You know that big hit, Runaway Love. You know If My Friends Could See Me Now. And I remember being a kid and watching that film Fame and hearing Red Light, Party Light, all those great songs. And that's our girl, Miss Linda Clifford. Bring her up here.
Hey,
welcome to True House Stories, Miss
Hey,
Thing.
how are you? Oh, stop it.
We are not worthy here at True House Stories to have such grand royalty that lives in Chicago. But
yes.
So does Chicago people know she's ours. She's a New York girl. She ain't no Chicago girl.
That's right.
Chicago by marriage, but she is a New York girl. Brooklyn, New York, USA.
Once a New Yorker, always a New Yorker. Never changes.
Thank you. Well, we've been talking back and forth and having a good old time before off screen. And before we get started, of course, and before I ask the first question, I ask everyone, how are you holding up during this COVID thing? How's everything going?
Well, I'm very grateful and very happy to say that we managed to get through this whole thing without becoming ill ourselves. Our family is good and everybody's healthy. So I'm very pleased about that, although I'm very sad about the situation with some of the other families who were not so lucky. So, but we're doing okay. We're staying alive, child, staying alive.
Thank God. All right. Well, you look great. I'm not going to ask you for your young age of 38 years old. We know that you're looking fabulous for 38, doing your thing.
Thank you. It's been a rough 38 years. Actually, my birthday was just 2 days ago.
Come on, everybody. Wish her a big happy birthday. Start saying happy birthday wishes to her.
Yes, that would be great. I love it. This is my birthday week, so I'm still celebrating. And I'm like really surprised that I'm still here. I mean, I think back on some of the things that I've done in my life and some of the people I've encountered, and I'm like, wow, you are lucky to be alive because there's some crazy folks out there in the world. But I made it. Another year, and I'm here with you.
Thank God. And thank you for being with us. And thankfully, thank you for being with us. And don't ever think that we're very grateful for all the contributions you've done over the years. But before I even get back to this, let's talk about you. Let's start with the first question. Oh, Linda, they're just saying you're a little quiet. You just make sure you speak a little bit louder.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because it's a little quiet on your side. Okay. So the first question I ask everyone is the same, and it's a very appropriate question. Is of course, how does music find the young Linda Clifford? Young, like child young, or whatever, middle school, wherever you found.
It was an accident, first of all. As far as the singing goes, I was clumsy when I was little. And so I fell down a lot. My folks thought, oh, we got to put her in school for dancing. She needs a little, grace. And that's what they did. They put me in school for dancing. But while I was there, I would sing with the other classes and the other people in the class. And I started singing. And they said, well, maybe she can sing this song. And they put me out and I started singing different tunes. And that's where I found myself, really in the singing. I was just so happy and I loved it. But not as much as singing. So that's where it all started for me.
All right.
At 4 years old.
4.
4.
So you're doing the typical, I'm going to guess, ballet classes and tap dancing?
You got
right?
it. Yes, yes. I can still do a time step, by the way. So, yeah.
Oh, my God.
I did that, and a little jazz, modern jazz. But they had a thing that they used to call personality classes. And they would line up all the students at a certain time of day. They'd have this big, long line that would go from one end of the studio to the other. And the piano player would start playing all these old vaudeville tunes. And we would have to sing and act out these songs, that kind of, hey, crazy fun stuff. And because I was so small, I was always in the front of the line, so here's me just really working out on that old tune. And the owner of the studio thought, this kid's really good. She's crazy, but she's good. So they started using me in their shows. They were shows in the Catskills. I worked the Catskills.
You did the Catskills?
Oh, yeah. I had to sing in Hebrew, Yiddish, French, Spanish. Just very little, but I learned, how to sing in all those languages so I could perform for them.
Did you have any grandeurs of thinking about show stardomship at that time? Like, were you thinking about being, when you were that young, as like being the star, Hollywood?
At the time I was, I would say 6 or 7, I was doing shows regularly. There used to be a Star Time that would come from Macy's basement. They produced these shows in Macy's. And I was doing that show once a week, which was at that time live TV. And then I was also doing a show called The Merry Mailman Show with Ray Heatherton. And you're probably too young to remember this, but, he used to have a show called The Merry Mailman. And I would sing that song with him and dance. So, at 7, I was already used to cameras and, that kind of thing. So it's been a journey.
Wow.
Yeah.
See how everyone has that big backstory. It's never from when you see the front album cover. It's like, how did you get from there to the album? It's like, where did it all go? So now we're talking, this has got to be
50.
I was going to say late 50s, right? Around that time?
Yeah. It's been a while.
So let's just paint this picture. So right now, the Big Bopper and Buddy Holly and all that's on the radio, basically.
Yes.
So rock and roll, the king of rock and roll is just making his way through. The Beatles have not yet stepped on these shores yet. They weren't even playing yet.
Right. So
Chuck Berry's doing his thing. The other one, Jerry Lee Lewis is playing with the crazy hair, the piano, all that's going on. And you're doing the Catskills.
Okay. I was actually a little older when I started doing the Catskills.
But no, I'm joking.
Yeah,
I'm just joking.
The TV shows that were happening, I started singing Elvis Presley songs. Not
Hunker, Burning Love? Hunker, Burning Love.
Yeah. Those were the tunes, and people would go, oh, how cute. Here's me with my pigtails. And I'm singing All Shook Up by Elvis Presley. So that was, that was my thing. Lord,
you better work this thing.
I did. Okay.
You were there. You did. You broke it out for us. She's not only playing, she's not telling you, she was there when as those songs were being made, she was singing them as a young kid.
That's right.
All right. So you had to learn quick how to sing, like real fast.
I did. And my dad had an incredible beautiful baritone voice. And he would sing around the house all the time. So, singing was just something that happened spontaneously throughout my life. And my mom, I love her to death, but she couldn't carry a tune if it was in a bucket. I mean, she tried. She wanted to sing so desperately because we all did. And she just was not a good singer, but she tried. So we loved her for trying. And we all had just a wonderful time growing up with that. Music was huge in my life.
Well, you got to realize there wasn't much around at that time. We're not talking like today where you have so many different things going on with the internet. And, you know, you're talking about AM radio, a few stations, and a couple of TV stations.
I think there were 3 TV. Well, there was NBC, CBS, ABC came later, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, and early when this all started, everything was black and white. I mean, my God, somebody got a color TV. It was like, oh my God, color? You know, it was unheard of.
Hang on. I make a joke of this all the time. My neighbor got the color TV. What that was a plastic front that had 3 colors, red, blue, and yellow. But come check out our color TV. Black and white with this color. Yo, that ain't color. The frig is that crap?
Oh my God.
That was a luxurious moment. You got color TV.
That was huge. Huge. So, yeah, that was a big deal.
And this is pre-FM radio, girl. Pre-FM radio.
Tell me about it. I know. I think WBBM played Sinatra, Dean Martin, that whole, the Rat Pack. And so obviously I learned all of those tunes. And then, of course, Peggy Lee and some of the Ella Fitzgerald, all those ladies started coming into play. So that was huge.
So big band music was still the predominance next to rock and roll, right?
Right. And then, of course, you know, the R&B stations were coming up also. There was, in our home, literally, there was every kind of music being played. There was country music because my parents were both from the South. And so we listened to country music. We listened to R&B and blues. And we listened to the Great American Songbook. It was all there. So, you know, for that, we were well-rounded in the music family.
So as far as education is going,
mm-hmm.
You know, of course, we're singing and stuff. Which way are you thinking life is going to be taking you? Are you thinking like becoming a lawyer or a doctor or any type of things like that? Or are you just thinking about singing at this point? And
Singing.
Really?
That's it. Knew it. I graduated from Wingate High School. I don't know if you remember Wingate. And, you know, my folks, of course, they wanted me to go to college and be a school teacher. You know, that was, you know, school teachers have a nice living. They get a nice retirement. You'd be comfortable, you know, and that was the thing. And that generation was like, you know, we didn't have that opportunity. So we want you to go and do all these things. And I thought, I can't. But I did try. I graduated, and then I went to St. John's University for about 2 months. And I had been a member of the Future Teachers Club when I was in high school.
Okay.
And, you know, to try to fill that void that was there for my mom, and it just didn't work for me. So they finally understood. They said, okay, we get it. You got to do what you got to do. And I took off.
You broke out.
I broke out. I was gone.
You broke out of St. John's and you said, I'm leaving now.
Yeah, pretty much.
You closed that door. Where's the door open next from St. John's? Where do you roll to?
Well, what happened was I did go to the Catskills. After high school, I went to the Catskills. I worked with, you know, some really incredible people. I learned so much that entire summer. And then I met a band that was performing up there, and they invited me to come see their show. And when I saw them, I thought, oh my God, they're awesome. This is a great band. They had dancers and singers and musicians, and it was fabulous. And so I invited them to come to my show. And the show that we did in the Catskills, as I said, it was almost burlesque, but burlesque in the true sense of the word, not strippers, but comedy, dancing, singing. And so I was Carmen Miranda, Ethel Waters, Eddie Cantor. I played all these different characters. So, wow. Yeah. And everybody in the cast, had that same attitude and same work ethic. So you changed on the side of the stage. We could hear the musicians making mistakes when instead of reading the music, they were, because, here we are standing, 1 minute I'm Carmen Miranda, the next minute I'm in an evening gown, literally in 5 seconds. And so needless to say, there was a lot of changing going on. But we did that. And I joined this band. And that was a lesson in itself. We went from the Catskills to Miami, which was their home base.
Okay.
So I lived in Miami for a little while until I made the Ku Klux Klan angry. And yeah.
Let me ask you, before we get to the Ku Klux Klan angry.
Yeah.
Can you paint Miami's picture at that time, what it looked like around that time? Didn't look like the Ocean Drive of today.
Oh, no. No, it definitely did not. You didn't see all those wonderful colors and all. No, it was a totally different retirement city. A lot of people went there for the weather to retire and, just really do nothing. There was no nightlife. There weren't nightclubs or dancing or anything, but now it's like a second Vegas almost.
Yeah. Then it was basically a pasture waiting to pass.
Exactly.
I would call that the waiting to pass area.
Yeah.
We're transitioning to our other side, but we're waiting.
The waiting room.
So we'll be burned out while we wait. So everyone that's tuning in, now we're getting to the part where Miss Clifford pisses off the Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah.
What did you do to the Ku Klux Klan or the Klan members?
We actually got booked in this beautiful, beautiful venue in Titusville, Florida. I don't know how many of your listeners know Titusville, but they're very close where Cape Canaveral. Okay, I think it was still called Cape Canaveral at that time. It became Cape Kennedy. So they were sending these rockets up into space and what have you. You would get a lot of astronauts coming in this area in a club. And we would also get people who were not necessarily educated, but lived in that area. And some of the group they were Klan, very proud of it. And at that time, George Wallace was running for president. And so they would come in and they would sing Wallace's theme song. Sing right to me. I'm like,
sing George Wallace's theme song?
Yeah. What
was his theme song?
Well, I sang Born to Lose.
Did you sing Born to Lose?
Yes. So obviously they didn't like that so much, and they decided that they were going to make me regret it. And they showed up at my house with a cross burning on the lawn and this gang of people coming down the street. And that's when I left and went to California in the middle of the night. I had no choice. I had to leave. Yeah.
Can you tell us what some of the words were in Born to Lose to some of the younger audience members? Do you know any do you remember?
I can't remember now. Born to Lose and Now I'm Losing You, but
Goodbye. Yeah. And good night, everyone.
So yeah.
Poor George Wallace and his followers. It's kind of like what we were dealing with recently, but let's keep that moving.
Right. Yeah, let's keep moving.
So now we move our way from the South to the West.
Yeah.
California, here I come.
Right back where I started
from.
So we go out to, I go out to California, and at this point I had left the original group and started my own band. I had like a little trio and myself, and I left them behind, but let them know where I was, and they followed. And we started working clubs in California. And we found an agent, and my God, we traveled the entire country, including Alaska, which was one of my favorite places to go and work. So just playing nightclubs and really paying our dues. I mean, that was part of the deal. And that's the thing that's missing, I think, a lot today. People don't have, I don't know, maybe they don't have the patience to pay their dues, or there's not a lot of places to do it. You can't just go in and start working a nightclub anymore. There aren't any clubs like there used to be. And we were grateful that, you know, we came along at that time, and we did. We worked, oh my gosh, we worked clubs everywhere. And that's where you really learn your craft. You know, how to talk to an audience, making eye contact, not being afraid to speak to them, you know, because in the beginning, you know, I had done all this other stuff where I was just introduced and I came out and sang a song and I was gone. Now, all of a sudden, I'm up front and I have to speak to the crowd, talk to them about their special requests, et cetera, et cetera. And so that makes a difference. I think when people go out, they don't just want to hear you stand there on YouTube, and that's where you learn it. Is in these clubs.
Sure, these clubs get your technique, make skin thicker. You know, in the sense of learning how to deal with a rowdy crowd, all that stuff, right?
We used to work a club in Chicago. I am not kidding. And every time I would sing, somebody would inevitably ask me to sing The Way We Were. This was before I was recording. And every time I would sing The Way We Were, a fist fight would break out. I kid you not. And to the point where we were so used to it, the piano player would just pick up the piano and move. The drums would get pushed back. It's like, give him room. Let him go.
You're talking about the Barbra Streisand record, The Way We Were? That one?
Yes.
They would start fighting over that record?
I know. I'm like, The Way We Were. And then
what the hell would make anybody fight over The Way We Were?
We're not doing that song anymore. We took it out of the...
I don't blame you. That would have been off the repertoire right away. Right away. Hell no.
So we did take it off the list. And then I guess, I don't know, a few months later, somebody came in and we thought, okay, it's been quiet. We can try it. And sure enough, boom. Yeah.
Normally that record makes people cry.
I know. They get emotional.
It always makes you think about things that went past, right?
Right.
Not fighting over, or maybe you know what it may have been? Yo, you took my woman. That kind of fight.
That's the way we were. So, hey, you never know. And then also at that same time, the biggest tune that was out there was Donna Summer. I love to love you, baby.
1975, everybody.
Yes. And so, you know, they would ask me to sing it. And I'm like, I don't. And then finally, I listened to it so much that we just started faking it. And I was doing it in the clubs. I was actually doing Donna's music.
You were doing Donna's stuff?
Yes. Absolutely.
Now, Donna Gaines didn't like the part that went, oh.
I know.
How do you do that live? What do you do live? What are you going to have, 15 minutes of?
You just do it. I mean, it's part of the gig. So you do it. And you make a joke out of it. And hopefully people will like it. And they did. They loved it.
Probably one of the most risque records of its time being on radio.
Honest to goodness. Yeah, I was so surprised when I heard it. But that turned a lot of things around for music. You know, that song, all of a sudden there were different words that you didn't normally hear on the radio were being, okay, we'll let that one go. We'll let that word go. You know what I mean?
Pushing the envelope, right? Pushing that envelope.
The envelope a little bit more each day. It happened. Because I can remember a DJ making a note about a particular song, I think that Curtis did, and he made a comment in the song, and of course they left it, but they would bleep it out on the radio.
Now she's talking about Curtis Mayfield, everybody.
Yeah. Oh. And
she said Curtis. It's not Curtis McLean, it's Curtis Mayfield.
That's right, Curtis. And they bleep it out on the radio. And he's the comment, I can't believe that professional would say such a thing in a song. And I thought to you out of touch because things are moving. Are you listening?
Wow.
Yeah.
Things that, like that song goes, things are changing. And it's so true. Things were changing drastically. Men wearing their hair long. You're talking about the hippie generation was coming in. Yep. Sex, the whole 1970s, sex and freedom. Free love, drugs. Everything's changing. Everything's changing. We just came out of a horrible situation with Vietnam.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we had another president that was a Watergate scandal going on. There's a lot of dirt going on around us, boy.
A lot of crooks.
And changes for sometimes the better and sometimes for the worse.
Absolutely. Yes.
Both ways. Great changes and bad changes all at the same time.
Good without bad and vice versa. So, there's got in that expression. And I think but we've had it all. We've been through a lot.
So you're Cali, you're doing your nightly shows?
Yes.
Keep going. Take us on the trip to Linda Clifford world. Go ahead.
Oh my God. So yeah, you're working the nightclubs and really in California, you work 5 hours a night. So if you're singing for 5 hours, you're building up your chops. Your throat is your vocal power is pretty strong. You're good. And that's huge because, you have got that stamina. You're able to hang in there. Well, I moved to Chicago because after touring the country and working all these clubs, at one point we lost our guitar player. We needed a new guitarist. So someone in the band said, "Oh, I know this guy in Chicago. He's great. And he used to play, he's a rock and roll guy. He used to play with PG&E. Okay, Pacific Gas and Electric is a band."
Oh, wow.
You remember that group?
Yeah, another group. Yeah.
So we get him on the phone, he calls him, and we're all listening, we're like, and of course we didn't have speakers at that time. So everybody's got their ear trying to hear what's going on. And no speaker phones. So he convinces us that instead of him coming to California, where he used to live and play with that band, we should come to Chicago because there's nothing in Chicago like the band that we have now. And by now, I mean, I had gone from a 3-piece trio to a 9-piece band behind me.
Wow.
We had 4 horns, a rhythm section. I mean, it was amazing. It was an amazing band. So here we are. We know nothing about Chicago. We don't know where we're going to live. We take off and come to Chicago because we think we're going to really hit it big and be superstars. Because that's what this guy told us. We almost starved to death. We were using pop or soda bottles. I know in New York there's soda.
And in the Midwest, it's pop, everybody. Pop is Coca-Cola, Pepsi, that kind of stuff.
Exactly. And in those days, you return the bottles and got money. You got cash.
Glass, because they were glass bottles.
Glass bottles, that's right. So,
real sugar, everyone. Real sugar. Not that wannabe.
That's right.
Saccharin, not even the saccharin. What's that thing called? Oh, God.
Which one?
The sugar they put in now. They don't call it sugar. They call it something else. Anyway, wannabe, crappy, not sugar. They put in everything now.
Yes. So that obviously that wasn't good. It wasn't a lot of money, but that's how we would buy our groceries. Whatever food we
So you were looking for bottles? You were bottle collectors?
Yes.
Yo, they were bottle collectors for a bottle collector. It was cool.
That's right. I'm hungry. I need something to eat.
I hear you.
We did that.
That's called dedication, children. Dedication with a capital D.
We did get a job in Chicago working on, which was like the show, and we worked one particular club. It was.
What was the club? Wait a minute, I'm losing you. What was the club called in Chicago?
It was called Mothers.
Mothers in Chicago. Yes. Does anybody remember that? Let us know.
Yeah, let us know. They might still be there. I don't know. But we worked Mothers, and then we also worked a place called the Rush Up. And they called it that because there was a giant flight of stairs, and carrying your equipment up those stairs was like in your life in your hands. It was very dangerous. I was glad I didn't have to carry anything. But we did that, and we got hired, at 6 weeks at a time. People were like, oh, no, we want the band because it was great. But, nobody wanted to pay a 10-piece band.
Linda, let me take a moment to say this. It's Mothers on Division, they're saying.
On Division? Yeah, who said that? Who's that?
Linda Red told us. She said, tell Linda Clifford, Mothers on Division.
Is it, Linda, I love you. Is it still there?
And also somebody else wrote, I think it was Rick Allen wrote, my dad was her bass player.
What?
Yeah, in the band. I'm trying to find when he wrote this. Anyway, we'll get to that in a minute, but I did see that come up. I said, oh, they're reaching out now. And everybody's screaming, Runaway Love, girl, Runaway Love. So go ahead. I'm sorry. So you were saying now we're on Division. So you had to carry all that stuff up and you're doing it. You know what's crazy though? Let me give you a perspective. You left California where stuff is normally happening to go to Chicago. Normally people from Chicago are dying to go to California. How does that work? How does that work?
I think the reasoning behind that time was, we've worked the entire country. We've been all over the place. We've never been to Chicago. Why don't we just go and check it out? And a lot of the guys in the band married. I was married. So there was nothing holding us to one particular city. So we just take off and that's called freedom, people. That's being free. But that didn't last long. Anyway, we'll get to that later.
Yeah, we know there's a bigger plan, and there's also what they call a karmic plan too, because something huge comes from that as well. Being in Chicago, a lot of things changing.
That's right,
as we know.
So in Chicago, as I said, we play these rooms, and it turns out in Chicago, which is different from every country, you don't work 5 hours. You work 6 hours a night. 5 a week, and then on Saturday, 7 hours.
So you're working more hours now and more days in Chicago.
And less money. And making less money.
What a great deal this is.
Hey, can't beat it. And the few guys who were in the band who were married, they had their wives, their kids. We're all living in a 3-bedroom apartment.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, and then eventually, and I think it's very normal, the wives are like, hey, this is not what we talked about when we were, this is not it. Something's got to change. And unfortunately for us, the money got a little better, but not enough that we could stay the way we wanted, live the way we wanted. And eventually the group did just, I always managed, though I was ready to have at least 3 or 4 players that stayed with me. And I found myself working the Playboy Club. In downtown.
Those were hot back then. Those were hot because they had one in New York, Chicago, LA.
Absolutely. And I think, it was right off of Michigan Avenue, which, the magnificent, great area of Chicago. And we worked in the room was called the living room. And that's where people would have dinner. And then there was that kind of thing. So that's where we were working. And I met this guy there who every day now, I met my husband there at the Playboy Club. And he was playing a show in the showroom, and I was downstairs in the living room. And he eventually came and started working with our band. And that was it. We've been married together for 43 years. So, yes, yeah.
And how many children later?
We've 2. A girl. He's an archaeologist who lives in South Carolina. And my daughter is a voiceover actress and singer. She works a lot for Disney and all that stuff. And she's out in LA. So, and grandchildren, we have 2 grandchildren.
Oh,
yeah. So we've been busy trying to hold down the fort.
All right. Well, you meet your husband.
Yes.
You get married.
Yeah.
You stay. How long is the stint stay at the at Hugh Hefner's Playboy Club International?
Oh my gosh. We have been at the Playboy Club. I think I was there for a year. Yeah. And then we had a few changes with some of the players and that kind of thing. But at least a year. And they would have us back like every 6 weeks to try and keep us for a few months or whatever. But all together, I would say we were there for at least 3 years, on and off. So it was great. It felt good, honestly, to me, to be in one place and kind of be settled in. Because we had traveled. So, when you what it's like on the road. Everything you own, you've got in a suitcase.
Pretty much so.
Everything, And all of a sudden, here I am in this apartment and all my stuff is like staying. It's awesome. It was great. I loved it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So we're now moving into, because I know sooner or later you get picked up. So I got to hear how this happens from the record business, because, you're still singing.
I'm still singing. And I'm thinking to myself, well, how long can I actually sing in these nightclubs, all these late hours, the cigarette smoke, everything? I've reached an age where I'm starting to think about that. So I decided, well, maybe if I got a record deal, a real deal, that would help if I could get a deal. And I realized, someone mentioned to me that there was a record company not far from where we were working, and it was Curtom Records. So I decided that I was going to just waltz in there and invite them to come to the show. And that's what I did. I took a cab to Curtom and I walked up to the receptionist and said that I was here to see Curtis Mayfield.
Super
like I was somebody. Okay. I'm like, hey.
Superfly.
Superfly. Well, Curtis wasn't in, but his business partner was there.
I'm here to see Curtis Mayfield. You know who I am?
Curtis.
You know who I am? Who are you, girl? You tell them who you are. I'm Miss Linda Clifford. You hear me? Linda with a C, Clifford.
That's right. And I did see his partner. And I invited him to come to.
First, he probably said, "Jesus Christ, how sexy you look." Probably looked awesome when you walked in. Let's get the real picture. Here we go. So this is what I'm picturing in my mind, everybody. She's coming in fully decked out, ready. Here we go. How'd you go in there with a pair of jeans on, with a shirt broken, and my hat to the side? Go ahead, tell it. Tell it as it is.
Up a little bit. I did. I
She dialed up. She looked ready for the day. Ready for the day.
Well, first impressions.
Always. I tell everyone that. First impression may be your last.
Exactly. That's it. You just never know. So, yeah, a lot of people are like, it's not about how you look. Yes, it is.
Oh, especially when it comes to looking like, if you're looking to try to get a deal, you're damn right it's for how you look.
That's right. If you want to move forward, yes, it is about that. And so, yeah, I did doll up a little bit.
All right.
And he agreed to see me, and I explained that I was singing at the Playboy Club, and I would love to invite Curtis and whoever to come down and hear the show. And so he said, well, he gave me the standard, oh, that's very nice. And, maybe I thought, okay, fine. So I left. And I guess about 3 or 4 days go by. And all of a sudden, one night we're in the middle of what we do. And there's this big flurry of excitement. People start getting.
All right, hang on. Let me go to a commercial. 1 second.